the returning champion.
Here we are, episode 7 of... oh, hang on, I'm not in the game.
Show the game.
We're episode 7 of Button Mashup, and today we have Mox. How's it going, man?
Hello, good to be here. I've been a longtime fan, first-time caller, as they say.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and you brought along with you, I think, the biggest hype game that's hit FGCB in a long time.
Yes, so funny enough, I don't want to be a bandwagoner because I've been an OG in some sense, but I was actually thinking about playing Marvel 2 when you first invited me to do the game or the show, and I was like, oh, I've had such a history with this game, this is going to be the thing. And a week or so later, or we're talking about doing the episode together. I think there was a night before, and Marvel 2 is announced for a re-release.
Yeah.
And I was blown away because I did not think that this game was going to be leaving the Xbox PS3 prison that it was in for a while. And the hype was unreal. I'm definitely not the only one that was very enthused to hear this news, but it was very welcome.
Yeah, it blew up the Discord server. I just remember seeing that get announced, right? And then it was every channel that was maybe tangentially related to Capcom in any way was talking about this game coming out.
Agreed. I mean, look, it's really such a special game, and I'm really looking forward for new players to experience it. I'm not very good, and obviously if you're watching this, then and watching the gameplay currently, I am just absolute ass. But it just brings me such joy to play this oddball little game, and I'm so happy that more people are going to be able to experience it. You're going to have legacy players coming back, being able to finally, Fightcade's nice, but you're going to have a proper release of the game. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we were talking about this in the little pre-show, but I played this game 3 times, or two times outside of today. One of them was at, and this is maybe a shout out to God of Grunts, but there's an arcade in Indianapolis called Boss Battle that he's intimately familiar with, and I played it with my buddy there, and I was like, oh, this game's I remember playing Marvel 1 and having a great time with that, and then I played this and I was like, oh my god, this is a completely different game than what I was expecting.
It's crazy. So with you hit the start button and you're overwhelmed. There's 60 some odd characters, from everything you could even ever imagine. Marvel 1, you have maybe 12 or 15 or so.
Yeah.
And it's just whoa, this thing is out of control. There's so many characters, so much going on. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably float around because I don't have the experience with the roster, but I'm just picking the people from my Marvel 1 team because that's just easier for me at the moment.
Totally.
But it is I'm not sure you probably. I mean, maybe you do share the sentiment, but just from my experience with it, because I also played it at Combo Breaker with my nephew, and I played it. I was playing it for a little bit before we popped on here, and it's just a game where you can push buttons and feel like you're doing cool things.
That's all I've been doing for the past 15 years of my life, playing this game.
Perfect.
I know my cable buttons a little bit, but that's really about the extent of it. And I have muscle memory combos from or combos, I should say, from playing in the arcades, but that's about it. And I still feel like I'm doing so much.
Yeah.
Because it's just this series is great for doing that. It's just you can kind of mash it out, and you feel like, you're not. I was gonna exaggerate a bit and say you feel like you're at Evo, but I've seen this played at Evo. It's a little bit different than what we're rocking with right now.
That is
But
true.
yeah, it feels great to even just like kind of press. You use your legacy buttons, your Hadokens and whatnot, and you can pretty much figure it out.
Yeah. I like the fact that the buttons chain too, like.
Yes, agreed.
Which I think Marvel vs. Capcom 1 did that as well, but it was not nearly like. It does not feel the same. You even get a dog. Oh, you get a zombie dog.
I get all kinds of stuff. So I could do a zombie, I could do a flaming zombie, if I could... Oh, no, I still have it out. So I haven't played Jill in a million years, but she used to be one of the main three. Because I just had like a little...
Ooh, nice.
Resident Evil enjoyment. So I was like, oh, Jill's in this game? That's such a weird include. So yeah, she's got all kinds of stuff. She's got like the different zombies. She's got a dog. She's got the burning zombie. She actually, I think, also has the not Nemesis, but the other one. I don't know if you've played any
Tyrant,
of these games.
I think.
Yes, the Tyrant is one of the buttons as well. I think that might be the super though.
That would be around this time, right? Would be RE1. Oh god, I jumped right into that.
Pretty kind of.
Maybe we're
My
looking.
timeline with these games are always awful, so I couldn't tell you when things happened and when.
Oh, I can't dragon punch you out of that. Oh god. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so that was what you were trying to tell me earlier too, huh? Is you can like adjust the.
So that was a fun little trick that I believe, and this might be an urban myth. I don't know if there's legitimacy to this, but it's been around since I started playing this game. But I believe if you mash the buttons during a super like that, it adds more hits or something. Which could be real. I don't know if that was like the mythos of the arcade days or what, but I feel like I've always been mashing because I always thought that was a thing.
I feel like that's some knowledge we're gonna get from Scare Quotes later on.
Probably.
Where he'll be like, no, yeah, that's totally real, and that's how that works.
Someone will jump in. Yes, exactly. And he'll say like, well, did you know?
Yep.
I didn't know. And now I'm blown away with the breadth of knowledge he has sometimes.
Seriously.
It's crazy.
Seriously, it's great. He is a treasure. Hopefully we'll get him on. Actually, we're probably going to get him on sooner than later. Just because he wants to play Kabuki Clash. But yeah, so what... So there was some history about this game that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, so I had been playing fighting games loosely for, I don't know, I would say a year, here and there, I would say. And I would play in the arcade whenever we went and just kind of mash and attempt to play things, kind of like what I'm doing now, but and I was accustomed to the Mortal Kombats, the Street Fighters, the different iterations of each. And one day we were at the Nathan's Hot Dogs, the spot near us that we used to go to every so often, at an arcade section. And it was just like an total sensory overload. There's so much going on. There was so much going on in that arcade. And on near the entrance, as soon as you got in, I think I might have been 12 or so, was this game. And I had no idea what it was. And as soon as I went in, I saw it and I was like, what is this? And am I allowed to do a little bit of potty mouth on this podcast?
Oh, for sure.
I go in and I'm like, my fucking mind is blown because I was a comics kid when I was growing up. I was into Spider-Man and X-Men and all that. and now I'm seeing like X-Men characters and Ryu on the same screen, and I was blown away. I was like, this can't be real, because like, how can you do this? How can you have these characters together? And it just blew me away. And so I remember vividly, like, I would, it's such a special child.
Yeah.
I would just like stare at the screen and the intro, like let the intro rock and like not even put coins in, and just watch the opening sequence of this game over and over again. And I would see the Bengus art. I believe it's Bengus that did the art for the game. And like all the characters, I saw all these like Marvel characters that I knew on the screen with Ryu and Ken and all the Street Fighter folks. And I was just like, I would get mad when people would start the game up, because I was like so entranced. Well, I was a kid. I was so entranced with this opening sequence and everything about this game. But eventually I did end up playing, and I did figure out cable things. But then it kind of went away. And I didn't find the game for... Ooh, I think I just popped up the chat and vacated for a second. I like kind of forgot about it. And years later, I'm hanging out with my friend, and he has this on the PS2. Or it was maybe a couple years later. But I was like, oh my god, they did a different version of this. I was flabbergasted. And I remember borrowing it from him. And this was the game that I learned how to do a fireball on. I spent hours, thumbs blistering, trying to figure out... I was just playing around in training mode, and I was just trying to figure out, like, what everything does, how to do the special moves I would have seen on the arcade. Ooh, I thought that actually hit.
I thought it was going to as well. I still at the wrong time.
But yeah, I spent several hours one day. I don't remember what day it was. I don't know if it was a weekend or whatever, but I was playing as Ryu, and I was like, okay, today's the day I finally figure out how to throw a fireball and like do these special moves I've been seeing. And so, like, I've been playing this game forever, and my skills don't prove it, but I've been enjoying this game forever.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was like, we gotta play this, because this game has been a part of my life for quite some time.
That's like really the spirit of the question, which I love. That's where this went. It's just, for one bit here to share back is like, boy, is there like nothing like the innocence of being a kid with little money, and you're just like, you can just get the joy out of just watching the attract screen.
Oh, I would do that with every game, man. Like, I was not exclusive to this. I actually have another story about Tekken 4, or Tekken 4 and Tekken 5. I saw those in the arcades too. And the little opening cinematic was like, oh my god, like, you can do this with a video game? It was incredible. And I was probably just a little youngster at that point, but I didn't even want to play. I was just like, so enthralled with how you can do story in a fighting game.
Yeah.
Or like storytelling, and just like share your voice in a medium like this. Because, you're just like beating people up. You wouldn't think that there's much to it, but you can add such a visual style and a visual flair, and it changes everything.
Yeah. It was, the story for the most part in a lot of games was just like whatever you got at the ending, right? Or whatever the manual told you.
Right.
To have that story be told, I think at real time. Really, I would say my first experience with that was like Mortal Kombat 9, which is weird. Which is a weird way to say that, but since that was in the grand scheme of things not that long ago.
No, very recent.
But yeah, like that's always been, man, we have not finished like a match through KO.
I'm fairly distracted, but that's okay. You know, the
I
whole
mean, we both are.
chatting or
Yeah.
so. Once again, I will preface our gameplay. Marvel players, click like, click subscribe. If you're looking for other higher level gameplay, this is not for you. Casuals only.
Fair enough.
We are until I whip out my real team, and then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just.
Then I'm just destroyed, which is fine. I'm gonna make
But,
one swap. We're gonna swap.
Yeah.
We're gonna swap
So
Gambit
this
for
is
Felicia.
this is pretty much the team I usually play. It's Cable, Hayato, and a variable third. I've been playing. I don't know what it is about these characters, but I've just been enjoying them since. I think my buttons freaked out for a second. But I've just been enjoying. Oh, they definitely did. I've been enjoying these characters for ages.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I kind of. Okay, I'm back in. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I've just been enjoying. They're my comfort characters, I guess. I've been playing as them since a million years ago. You know.
It's weird. So, have you played Star Gladiator?
No, and I didn't even know it was it was like, where is Hayato from? But yeah, I have not played this once. I just thought he was cool because he had a little ripped shirt, spiky hair, and a beam sword.
Yeah. Again, this is probably another thing we'll learn from scare quotes later, but I feel like there was some intent for a Capcom Star Wars fighting game, and then we got Masters of Terrascasi instead. But I think that was what Hayato was supposed to be, but I mean, well, we could look that up, but we're recording right now, so we're just gonna not do that at all.
And I feel like that was a game that I don't even remember happening. I feel like it was just so elusive and such an oddball of the fighting game culture that I never saw really much of it anywhere.
I think I first learned about it through Giant Bomb, of all places. It's a weird place to learn about that too. But
yeah,
it was a weird. That was I would have similarly seen that character and be like, I don't know what he's from, but he looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's half the cast for me. I was I don't know what any of these people are from. I know when I was first starting out, I knew Ryu from the Capcom end, and that was the extent of it. I had my Marvel knowledge, but everybody else, I was like, who are you? But it was fun, over the years to figure out what games or whatever they're from, and then play said games. And while I've never played Star Gladiator, I've definitely dabbled in a lot of these Capcom.
You're not going to EVO this year, right?
I am not, no.
I was gonna say, if you were, we could play some Star Gladiator.
Oh, are they hosting that?
No, I have it on my Mister, which I am bringing with me.
Gotcha.
It's a weird game.
No, I have to put that off for another time.
Sounds good. I mean, it's probably on Fightcade. Oh no, there's no PlayStation games on Fightcade yet. I don't think so.
One of these matches will actually finish.
Yeah, exactly. Someday.
Yes, but not today. Well, not right now.
So what other FGs did you get into as a youth?
As a youth, like I said, I was at the arcade growing up, so I came across Mortal Kombat, Street Fighters, Tekken, as I mentioned. Now, Mortal Kombat was always odd or very hard for me because the buttons were so spaced out.
Yeah.
And it was just abnormal to I would go from one quadrant to another trying to press these buttons, and I quickly was like, yeah, this is not the game for me. And I think Marvel 2 on some of the machines also had a similar issue, but I think my big thing was, I want to say, it was some iteration of Street Fighter 2. I have very fond memories of this as well. My old summer camp when I was, I don't know, again, very young. A lot of these experiences were fairly formative, but we used to have an arcade block of time throughout the day.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It was sick, and so you had like rows of arcade games, and each of the groups, the age groups or whatever, would go in for 40 minutes, and then that's like the only combo I know with Hayato.
That was a sick.
But,
That was a sick assist. Like I was like, oh, okay.
But I remember, like, we would play Street Fighter 2. I'm pretty sure it was maybe Turbo or some variant, but the being young and
Nice.
you know, we didn't really have as much exposure to fighting games back then. It was just really the arcade, and that might have been about it. But I would play as Dalsim, and he was the menace of that machine because nobody knew that you can hit his limbs. Nobody knew like his hitboxes, so everyone would use him and you just do like light punch, medium punch, or like your kicks, and you were untouchable. And you could just do that all day. And it got to the point where we learned, because our counselors would sometimes have to pull the plug, we learned how to do that. And so it would get to points of salt.
Oh no.
We would get to Dalsim matches, and everybody was getting incredibly salty, and we would just pull the plug every time.
Oh,
because we didn't want everybody winning.
that's good.
Yeah, it was either like that or a button or something that deactivated the games, and we would just like abuse that because we were so salty at Street Fighter 2. And I will never forget those days as long as I live. It's probably the saltiest I've been at games too, but very good times.
I mean,
other than that, I can't really think of. Oh my God, we got close that time.
we got close, so
We got
close.
Other than that, I can't really think of what I really played much of in the arcade outside of this and Street Fighter 2.
I mean, those are both great like games to
Oh yes, absolutely.
to have a connection to, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
The
Nothing team, but
a nothing
We'll go for
team. You got the Geef.
we'll see how it goes. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
What I do find interesting about this game, in terms of the roster size, is like, we were kind of talking about Hayato, and like where the hell he came from, and like when I was like doing my little, like just like button checks and making sure all of my,
I don't know why I assisted when you supered, but carry on.
I realized that like the little robots from like Mega Man Legends are in this game, and they just have like the most ridiculous hitbox. And I'm like, why?
They barely have one. They are minuscule.
It's like, why? Why does this exist?
They are a menace. Them and the Mega Man characters are like notoriously small, and while they're not very good, their hitboxes are awful to play.
It was just, that was a learning experience for sure. I mean, I think like Street Fighter Cross Tekken had like a similar situation, if I remember correctly, where
yes, the cats from PlayStation or whatever they were from.
Yeah, it's like
Just an odd choice.
I guess Neko
Yes,
art counts too, right?
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why tiny characters in fighting games exist, but I definitely have a aversion to them.
Yeah, same.
Come on now.
Nice block. So what started the card game thing for you? That's a question, because my full I don't even know how to say this without sounding awkward, so I'm just gonna go with it. Like, you were probably one of the first people on the server that like I think I interacted with regularly. And I think it was like you had an offhanded comment about Flesh and Blood, which is the thing that I was playing at the time. And like that was just like all right, now I just live in the TCG chat and that's where we're at now. So yeah, so my curiosity for you was what started the card game thing for you?
Card game thing has been around, I think, a little bit longer than fighting game hobby. But for me, the cards started. My dad would always give me like a end of the week. This was when I was very young. He'd always give me like an end of the week pack of cards or whatever. And I think he's to blame for my my addiction to various card games. But so I started with Pokemon, I think, and then it was Yu-Gi-Oh and all of that. And so I've just kind of been.
Oh, we were so close.
That
SPD was probably gonna kill me.
It was just a regular one.
Oh.
But yeah, every week or so he'd come home and we'd get like a pack of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all these different games. Magic was one of them at some point, and I was just like, whoa, like this is not what I'm used to. It's the Western style, and it's like this darker fantasy kind of vibe. And I don't think I properly played a card game until I started learning Yu-Gi-Oh! In, I would say, like, it's around 4th grade or so, 5th grade or so. And ever since then, I've just been, like, dabbling in a little bit of everything. I picked up Magic in high school, I think, I want to say. I had a friend that loosely taught me, and then I properly learned how to play years later. But I've just been, like, engrossed in the card game sphere for a very long time. And so now, you know, I'm still doing that. I'm still playing. I think at my last check-in, I think I was playing something close to 7 games currently.
Jeez.
With varying degrees of skill level. But
that's a lot.
Oh yes, that is many. It is many, and it's not so easy on the wallet. So, kind of starting to have to make some difficult calls. But, you know, I just love the hobby. It's a great way to express yourself, and because there's so much you can do with just the character you play or the archetype you play, which is similar to fighting games, I guess.
Yeah.
But oh, go. Sorry,
No, you're good. I would like you to finish your point.
Yeah. But I knew that was gonna happen, but I kind of was hoping it wouldn't. But yeah, like a lot of these games, we need to actually do the proper every button thing. There we go.
Oh, that. God.
But like, I've always enjoyed that aspect of it, and it's got pretty pictures, and it's often got pretty fun gameplay. So I feel like all of those lumped together make for a really enjoyable experience.
That is playing that many games. I think there we go. Sorry. That is something that like
I gotta switch out of Cyclops.
That I kind of do relate to as well with that. It's like it's really easy to, because like a lot of card games do tend to have similar ideas, we'll say, like maybe not the same game in any way, but like close to having like similar ways of playing them. You kind of like go, well, how does this game do it differently? And then next thing you know, you're like 5 or 6 games in.
We did it. Oh no, we didn't. You have another character.
Oh my God.
Oh dear.
I wonder if like, is it the? I mean, I think it's because neither of us are really.
I'm fairly certain that's the case.
But that's kind of like one of the fun things about it, right? Is like there's an exploratory aspect to it, where you're just like, oh, that like, I mean, for myself, it was Soul Forge most recently, where it's just like, oh, this is like way different than what I would expect it to be. Like, how does this work? How do you scale this up, and how do you make your decks, and like that but avenues of exploration are kind of the part that I find that resonate with what you were saying for me.
Absolutely. There's so many ways to customize and play each game. You know, there's obviously like suggested routes to take or meta decks or things like that, but within that, you know, you can explore a little more and say, wow, like there's a lot more going on, and maybe I don't like this pick that somebody chooses, or maybe I have a different vision for this hero I want to play. Look at Flesh and Blood, for example, which is relatively linear, but you know, there are different routes that you can go in deck building that kind of help you express yourself a little bit more than just copy and paste. And you know, there's people that net deck, and there's definitely a space for that. But some of the greatest fun I've had in this trading card game hobby have been like making weird jank that works, or like adjusting known archetypes and making it work in my own special way. Like, all right, I will admit this, and I apologize in advance, but for those in the know, I played MTG, and I wanted to do my unique spin on Infect, and I know that makes me it puts a target on my back a little bit. But I saw the decks and I said, okay, well, there's some neat little stuff that I opened from packs. Like, why do I have to play this exact list? Or, like, how can I make this unique to me?
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing with fighting games. You know, there's a million different characters and a million different ways to play. And there's just so much room for expression in, like, both of these hobbies. And it's awesome. And I think that's what gravitated me towards enjoying both, right?
Yeah. With that, I mean, you mentioned Flesh and Blood, and then we did it. We finally did it.
We did it. We finished a game.
I
I didn't think it would happen, but we finished a game.
I think one of the cool things about that, it's one of those weird games where like the linearity of how you play them, or how you play, does breed its own little bits of ingenuity, I guess, right? Because I'm pretty sure you probably started playing around the same time that I started playing that game, which was around it was probably just after the Crucible of War set came out.
I think you're a little bit before me. I started around Monarch era.
Okay,
So I think you were a little bit before my my entryway.
If anything, I would say I was probably just barely. But the thing that I found, because like cards are so expensive, if you wanted to buy singles.
Absolutely. It was a mess.
It's gotten a lot better.
Also during the height of COVID, so
Yeah.
you had like inflated prices, and it was just a mess.
Which, you know, I'm very glad that game has gotten a lot better about it.
Yes.
Even if it's not perfect still, because I've seen some other cards recently that I'm like, why is that much money?
Absolutely.
But the thing that I found was you could still do relatively well if you didn't have the most optimal piece in the slot, at least when you're playing against like local people. You know, maybe if you're going to like whoa, Ken just got zombied.
He did.
And that was the thing that kept me playing that game for so long. And then, like, depending on the hero, your linearity kind of varied.
Right.
Which I was a bummer of me being a warrior player, because I didn't really get a whole lot of that, but that's fine. But, you know, it's like I played Viserai for, like, a good period of time. And for people who don't play Flesh and Blood, the best way to think about him is he's like the thing about Flesh and Blood we'll say is like it's Soul Calibur, the card game, kind of.
It is absolutely. There's so many parallels between that and fighting games, because I mentioned the linearity, but then you think about games like Street Fighter.
Yeah.
You only have so many buttons and so many specials, but it really is like, okay, here are your special moves, here are your normals, here are your things like that.
Yep.
And it's so, the way gameplay goes, oh god. Right, that's
I did the wrong one.
that's not the wrong one. That's a very good move. But it's like even the game flow. It feels like a street fight. Like you are going back and forth, and you are like beating the crap out of your opponent, and then on their turn they beat the crap out of you.
Yep.
And it's like the parallels are so easy to make. I think I'm gonna chip you.
Yep. You got it.
The parallels are so easy with a game like that, and I think it's a nice like middle ground between both mediums.
Yeah.
That one especially, rather.
I actually, as you were saying, because like I mean when the only reason why I got into Flesh and Blood was because someone told me it was like, oh yeah, it's Soul Calibur, but the card game, and I was like, okay, like that sounds like a thing I would want to play. And I remember like just kind of learning how the game kind of, as you were saying, kind of flows, and the whole like being able to, not so directly I should say, but being able to do things on your opponent's turn that could essentially give your turn back was such an interesting twist on card games. Like, Magic the Gathering does have the, you being able to like cast spells on your opponent's turn and things like that. But when you kind of have a game that's doing that back and forth dance that a fighting game has, right?
Absolutely.
But
you have your turn and they have theirs, essentially, for the most part.
But being able to do the little things to just like be able to improve your own position on their turn was one of the coolest things about that game for me.
Definitely, and while it could also be the most frustrating because
that is very true.
You have all of your cards in your hand do every game action. It's your attacks, it's your blocks, it's your
resources.
It's your resources. Yeah, exactly. But I think that's so clean in comparison to something like Magic, where part of your deck is reserved for your resources, and you can have games where that just doesn't happen. Like, you just don't draw these cards.
Yep.
And there's something so elegant and clean about a design where it doesn't matter what cards are in your hand, presumably, unless you're playing items or things like that.
Yeah.
Because everything can do everything, and you can strategize your plans, and it's glorious. I love the game.
Yeah, it's still probably one of my favorite card games. I haven't played it in such a long time, but I still, when things come out for it that I'm interested in, I buy them because I know at some point I'll probably touch it again.
Right.
But if anybody's ever interested in playing a fighting game that is a card game, you should check out Flesh and Blood.
There's actually plenty of other alternatives as well. You have Universes, which is similar, but I was actually part of a group that was kind of ragging on Flesh and Blood a little bit, because when it came out, the Universes folks were like, oh, so this is just simplified Universes.
Interesting.
I personally have never played, but it's also got a similar like fighting game kind of style. You have your player character is from various different IPs, and you can I forgot I had to also, but you can play as like Spike from Cowboy Bebop versus Godzilla, I think, is an option now. But
oh jeez, I saw there's like Critical Role people in it now too.
Yeah,
which
they
cool.
have a ton of stuff, but essentially it's pretty similar. You have your main person and your attacks and I don't know what I'm doing with Dalsim. I apologize. It's a mess. But it does have that similar back and forth of a fighting game.
Yeah.
And you have things like Exceed, which is like legitimately feels like a fighting game. You know, you're going down and back across your plane, which is your stage, and you're attacking back and forth. It's the card game sphere has, now that we're talking about it, quite a lot of overlap with something like the fighting game community, because you're also starting to get people that are into both, and they're saying, oh, like, I love fighting games, how do I translate that into cards?
Yeah.
And I love like the cross medium that's happening.
It's crazy to just think about the mechanical overlap too, right? And like I think it's like harder to see with fighting games, especially if you're like new, right? Like the idea of like taking a turn in a fighting game is just like,
right.
You don't think about that. You're just like, no, this is like I'm pushing my buttons at you and you're pushing your buttons at me, and then as you start to get into, get deeper into the mechanics of the fighting game, you're like, oh, yeah, like right now it's Mox's turn. Well, not anymore, but
right. Oh, now it's my turn.
Yeah, now it's your
There
turn
you go.
again.
Yeah, but absolutely.
That was like a huge, honestly, that was a huge eye opener for me. Learning fighting games was like that parallel. I'd just be like, oh yeah, no, this is just like when your turn ends and now it's mine and this is how we play. It was like, oh.
And it's nice, it's a great way to have a conversation in a gaming sense. You're saying, hey, like, I have this move, or hey, I have this combo, and oftentimes, that's also a great way of expression. Is you're conversing without talking. You're doing it. It's like fighting in general. You have your different styles and things like that, and you don't need to say anything, but you're communicating with different aspects of.
I was not expecting that to follow me.
I don't know what I'm doing with Dulcim, I'll be honest. I thought the old middle school strat of heavy punch would work, but you quickly negated it, so.
I'm kind of digging this character that I'm playing, though she just died.
Bon is, she's very fun, but I don't know if she's necessarily very good, but she's pretty fun. I actually had a friend who used to play as her.
Oof. Yeah. So, what would you put your favorite card? I almost said fighting game. We can talk about that in a second. Where would you put your favorite card game right now?
Right now, it's hard to say, because I think Flesh and Blood, gameplay-wise, is tremendous. And knowing the first time I played it, I said, being someone who's understandably gotten a little disenfranchised with Magic. All right, I think I know the perfect way to close this one out.
Okay.
But I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm awful. But someone is disenfranchised with Magic. Flesh and Blood felt like the next fantasy setting, unique IP card game. And that's what drew me in. And I love the back and forth. I love the art. I love the world building. It's filling that void that Magic has kind of abandoned.
Yeah.
But there's so many other pieces that are not really working right now. You have several formats that are in the game. You have Blitz, Ultimate Pit Fight, things like that. But everybody pushes towards Classic Constructed because they're just like, oh, there's not really attention to these other formats because, like, CC is the premier one. You have a focus on the competitive circuit. This actually came up in my group recently. You have a focus on the competitive circuit, but there's not really room for casual play outside of UPF, which doesn't really feel great to play. That's kind of Flesh and Blood's answer to Commander, I guess I would call it. But there's not, and you have products where boxes feel awful to open because you can open a $400 card or you can open $12 worth of Majestics. You know, it goes either way.
Yeah.
And there's the focus on like whales, and while I use that term in sort of a derogatory way, they're integral to games like these.
Yeah.
But there's just, and now you have even LSS themselves, they say, okay, well, for some reason, we're swapping the availability of Blitz decks to something exclusive to this like $60 collection thing. So instead of getting one, you get all of them, but it's 6 times the price.
Yeah.
And there's no way to get like your introductory product anymore without shelling over a ton of cash. And so I love the game, but there's just a lot of things deterring me from making it like my favorite game currently.
Yeah, that's always, I think, been their big struggle as like a company, is trying to figure out the best way to like figure out the best, like kind of as you said, like figure out the best way to drive like the approachability format, but then also, you know, feed the competitive side, especially seeing as, you know, again, like as you said, the competitive side of Magic the Gathering.
Sorry, I had to do that quick little cheeky kick.
Nah, it's fine.
I figured it out how to do today.
You know, like once, you know, because Magic the Gathering isn't serving that anymore, you know.
Right.
And they throughout the like 6 years, I want to say that the game has been 5 years. 5 years. This is 2019.
Flesh and Blood? Yeah, it's right around the time COVID started. Heck of a time to introduce a game called Flesh and Blood with a focus on in-person play.
Yeah. But you know, the thing that I'm gonna play Jin again. You know, it's a hard balance to make, and you know, there is kind of a means of disparaging the approach of you know, like Magic is certainly doing the other way now, where they're not committing to the competitive side of things and just trying to get the, you know, I guess you could really say like the Fortnitification, like make it simple and approachable, and have a bunch of things that people recognize in it, right? So it's like now, like it's like the two big game companies that are, well, I should say, although you know they're Australian, this is still kind of a Western mindset. You know, like I guess, you know, when you say like Western, you are kind of referring to that area of the world.
Really like non-Japanese or non-Asian, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which seems silly because you have LSS, which is Australian or New Zealand or one of those.
I think they're New Zealand, actually. You're right. And they have.
Oh dear.
That was kind of lucky. I didn't actually think.
that was good. I wasn't ready for the second super.
You know, they kind of fit that kind of hyper competitive, you know, space, and it just doesn't. Wow, rude! Steal my superpowers like that. Why don't you?
I know. So actually, in quick aside, I believe in one of the other superhero game crossover games, I believe instead of getting the stat boost that you get in this, you actually do steal your opponent's special.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, yours is faster.
Good night,
The giant robot fist wasn't coming out. But yeah, so it's kind of a weird space, I think, for like Western card games. What? I didn't do that.
I agree. You know, I feel like there's no perfect company.
True.
And I will say definitely not Hasbro at this point, but
No.
Hasbro WotC. But you know, I think LSS. I really want them to succeed because I think this is like a great game. but
Yeah.
there's so many things that are frustrating that are going on right now, and it's frustrating to watch when this company that's been doing pretty well is kind of making the iffier decisions.
Yeah.
But at its core, I would say that that is probably my favorite game. But I did pick up Shadowverse Evolve, which is another card game. I have a problem. A new card game comes out, and I'm like, okay, I got to get on it. But I actually played there was an app version first, and they released a physical version.
Okay.
And I had enjoyed that, so I said, it's just a matter of time until I pick that up. But I've
Yeah.
definitely been enjoying that a lot as well. But, of course, that has its problems too. But it's hard to balance. It's hard to keep everyone in mind because there's so many people who want different things out of this hobby. You have the investors, you have the collectors, you have the gamers, you have the casuals, you have the competitives, you have people who just want to play tabletop, like with their friends.
Yeah.
But you can't appeal to all of them. But coming back to fighting games, I think that's one thing that I really like about this hobby is that barrier of entry is however much a game is, but you can get hours of gameplay, and it's kind of, there's not really such a spread market. You have some of that, but it's not like quite as prohibitive as card games can be sometimes.
Yeah. Although, with certain games, like, not picking fun at Tekken too much here, but, like that was a huge asking price, and then, the DLC prices are, unless you bought the season pass, which also was like its own giant cost.
Right.
And as much of a Street Fighter guy as I am when it comes to like modern fighting games, that was not even much better. When it comes down to it, it's. And then you're.
I think we're in a dangerous territory with fighting games now. A lot of companies are experimenting. They see the successes of the Fortnites and the online like season pass things, and they're saying, I don't know what happened there, but okay. You have like all these companies that are looking at these successes of smaller free-to-play titles, or free-to-play, and then they say, oh, well, this works for them. Let's introduce that to our game.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. You can't expect your customer base to be enthused to pick up your $60 now $70 game, and then you tack on like however much battle passes are, or like your various DLCs and things like that. It's an interesting space, and I do think there's games like Grand Blue that do it well. You can play that game, I think, free indefinitely, but you have not as much access as the full version.
Right.
But you can play the game. You can play the game.
Yeah.
It's not like, and that's actually what I've been playing on. I've been experimenting a little bit with Grand Blue.
It's a very fun game.
Very fun. I was all ready to toss it aside because I was like, I don't really need another game, and I played that demo and I was back in.
Yep.
I was sold. But I can play on the free version till the end of time. I'll have 4 characters available, but it doesn't feel, and yes, there's battle passes and all of that nonsense in the full version, but there's a version of the game I can enjoy without having to feel like I need to shell out upwards of $100 to start playing a game.
Yeah.
And it's really bad when game prices have increased, and now you're at $70 a game, like Tekken 8. I didn't buy Tekken 8 till months down the line when it was, I think, $50 on a Steam sale or something. because that's just outlandish to expect your customer base to have the funds to buy your very overpriced game and your battle pass and your season pass and your, this and that.
I bought that game in a weird way because my work has like a points program kind of thing, and one of the things you can get out of that is like Visa gift cards.
Yeah.
I didn't get hit with that. All right. So that's how I bought it. It was I had enough points to pretty much offset that cost to like $20.
Very nice.
And that's how I bought Tekken 8 because it was like it was popular on the server, and I was like, yeah, like that. This is how I got to do it, I guess, because I want to play with everybody. But I mean, I could have afforded it otherwise. I'm not saying that I was like hurting for money, but it was just like kind of rough to look at and go, ugh. And I don't even own the DLC either. I just wanted to play Hwoarang, so I have to worry about it too much. But yeah, it's crazy. And it's kind of funny too, not to like besmirch Grand Blue's approach, because it's great, but it's like Killer Instinct did that in the beginning.
That's true. That's right.
And somehow that did not gain traction. Apparently, you just need the power of anime. That's just how. That's really what it is.
You get hot husbandos and waifus, and that sells a game.
Yep.
Literally.
Jago's not enough of a husbando.
No, unfortunately not. Well, maybe to some of us, but not to the mass public, it seems.
Oh, I'm so dead.
Yes.
Oh,
God.
Getting him in the stand.
Nice.
But yeah, so one thing I wanted to circle back on was FGCB specifically.
Yes.
So what is your history with the server as a whole? Because I think you were also well before me too, I believe.
I was an early-ish adopter. I don't go quite as far back as someone like Metfan, but it was him that actually told me about the server.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I believe I had started a attempt to get a Queens fighting game group going, because the only other options I had were Brooklyn or Manhattan, and that was a trek to get to.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm sure I can find a venue nearby. I had no idea what I was doing, first of all. So this is probably why it didn't work out. But I posted it everywhere. I said, hey, I'm looking to start up a locals, and I got a couple hits on Reddit, or I was part of Sajam's Discord for a bit, and I was just kind of putting my name out there. And, eventually I built up a little group, but nothing came of it. And Metfan was part of that. And I was like, hey, I'm kind of losing steam on this. Like, does anybody else have any suggestions for group? And Metfan had said, hey, I'm part of this group with called the Fighting Game Boomer, or Fighting Game Community Boomers, or FGCB as we call it. And joining it was great. I think I was part of the group when we were around 400, 500 members. Still substantial.
Jeez.
It was still in its infancy.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. It was people my age. I'm 31 now, so I'm on the younger end. But it was people my age, because sometimes you join one of these groups and your opponent is 20. And it's sometimes hard to talk with them. So
different era of life, for sure.
Absolutely. But, I've been here and there on the server. I've done community events here and there as well, and it's a great place to be. Sometimes that's a caveat, though. Sometimes I've had to drop out because my life is being consumed by talking on the various... We have 300... not actually, but we have so many ways of just chatting.
Yeah.
And I could live on there, really, if I wanted. But it's such a great place to be. You know, I'm not dick riding or anything because this is the FGCB sponsored or hosted event. But seriously, Geo has really made such a fun little community to be a part of. I am definitely glad I joined. And now we can talk about TCGs as well. So, you know,
Yeah.
there's also that.
Yeah, it's great.
Get everything in one.
Yeah. You had a comment, and I'm like trying to remember what it was. Shit, I was too busy thinking about not dying. That's at least, you know, despite the effort, you know, put in originally, you know, a good outcome came out of it, right? Like you ended up
absolutely
finding a community that really works with you, and then you didn't have to do the work to do it.
Exactly.
Just left that to Geo.
Exactly. But it's such a great little group, you know.
Yeah.
There's so many fun little things going on always, and there's just such little time in the day, and I really wish I could be available for more of it. But
yeah.
If somehow a listener listens to this and finds the group through there, I really cannot sing my praises enough about this group that we made together.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I feel like I say that every episode, because it's true,
It's true.
And every
Absolutely.
person has the same sentiment, which is great. Like it's a hats off to Geo, for sure.
Absolutely.
And granted, like yes, like you know, he even said this in his episode, like, you know, it's a group effort. It's not solely him, but like
Right.
at the same time, without him,
He was the guy that made the move, and it goes such a long way. And I was actually thinking about this while we're talking about it. Another like very fond memory I had of the group was last year's Evo. We all met up, and I think all of us were in different tournaments, and most of us were doing Street Fighter, and I was like, I 0-2'd like almost instantly, and just was like, I am so bad. I had a little existential crisis because everybody else was like, oh, I made it to day 2. I did this and this, and I was like the big loser because I didn't win any of my games, and I was so down in the dumps. The first day of Evo, which is a terrible way to start Evo. But day 2, I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll go down and I'll hang out with everybody and I'll just support them from the sidelines. And it was such a different experience because, you know, everybody was so eager to get games in with me, or like we were all cheering along for whoever was playing, and we were just like walking around the floor supporting the group. And I was like, well, what was the point of my little crisis? Because this community is so supportive, and like, even though I am utter ass at like every fighting game, as exemplified here, I am utter ass at like every fighting game I touch. But with that being said, there were several members that were like, hey, you know, let's play at some of the little like setups. Or we spent hours playing Street Fighter 6 in somebody's hotel room, and it was just like so fucking fun. And I don't think I've experienced such a camaraderie in a hobby group like to this date, and I was so appreciative of that experience. And that's just, you know, what you get for joining the group. You get this group, this like little crew, and it's awesome.
And it's you know, we kind of made the joke about like different stages of life, but like I think that's like a key part of it too, right? Is like usually when you know something's going on in life or whatever. That was fucking amazing.
That's about all the skill I have, I think, that I can show off.
Oh, that was awesome. But you know, the ability to just be like, hey, you know, I have this going on in life right now, and that just being understood and worked with in whatever capacity that it needs to be is again, it's like one of the best reasons why the server exists. It's just like you can always take it at your own pace, which I love. One of the things I did remember, the thing that I was going to mention is like one of the coolest things that I think that you had. You know, it maybe didn't work out perfectly, but it was still like probably some of the most fun that I've had on the server. Was your Living Legends that I forget what you called it.
I was racking my brain earlier trying to remember the name of it too, but I couldn't for the life of me.
But that was like, you know, I missed the first. I forgot what was the first game that you guys played.
The first one was Garou, Mark of the Wolf, I believe. I'm fairly certain that was the first one. And the second one was Last Blade 2.
Yes, and that was the one that I participated in, and that was so much fun. I played against Ziku for one Sunday.
He was a monster.
He was, but it was like, I must have played like 10, 15 matches in a row, like just... It was so much fun. It was such a good time. But much like, you know, it suffered from the same thing that I think, like, just the whole Flesh and Blood thing. Although, I don't know, people seem to be less concerned about losing their character in Flesh and Blood, but it's like, you know, you play a character that you really like, and you're just like, oh, I'm slowly making this person retireable, and I'm gonna have to play somebody else. Oh no.
Well, that was the whole thing behind it, was that for someone like me, I love running around the roster.
Yeah.
And I know that some people, they have their characters and they're comfortable with that. And I was thinking, well, very nice. You know, what happens when you lose access to your main? Like, it kind of forces you to explore the game a little bit more. And that's what I was going for. I was going for, like, step out of your comfort zone, and you'll, like, learn a new... What the idea was that you'll learn a new character, but a lot of the times, you know, not enough people were playing to have these characters, like, become unplayable.
Yeah. So the funny part about that is I'd played quite a bit of Last Blade 2 before that. So I kind of did have a main already. I really liked playing Moria. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you announced it, I was like, well, you know, I know, like, Moria is kind of like one of the higher tier characters in the game. I won't play him. I'll try somebody else. And so I picked Kojiro off of that. I was like, I kind of like brought her into like the fight cage training, and I was like, oh, you know, I'll give this a try and see how it goes. And I was like, I'm in love with this character.
Well, that's all the great part, is that you're so, sometimes in the hobby, you're so fixated on your main that there could be another character in the roster that you have a blast playing, but you have no idea because you're so absorbed in the comfort of your character, your comfort character.
Yeah.
And kind of incentivizing you to what happens when that's gone was like the whole idea of that event. And yes, I did blatantly steal the Living Legends system from Flesh and Blood. But,
I loved it. It was perfect.
I thought it was neat for a fighting game experience.
I mean, again, it works. I think like the idea of, you know, it'd be kind of cool, you know, not saying that you have to commit to this, but it would be kind of cool to see something like it return. I don't know if I'm up to it either, because I just have other commitments to the server in different ways.
It's a commitment for sure. And while I would love to see it again, it definitely needs to be adjusted. And I would feel, I would feel a little bit better about running it now, because I think it's a little bit busier. And there's more of a like retro groove that's been going on lately. I've been seeing a lot more activity in the Marvels. I've been seeing a lot more activity in the Mark of the Wolves stuff. So it seems like people are starting to branch out, which is makes me think that it might be time to, or I could run an event like this again. It's just so much of a commitment.
Yeah. I don't know what I just did there, but it was very funny and made me laugh. Oh.
That, I believe, is his taunt.
That's a command taunt? He has a command taunt in this game?
I believe so, and you should be able to throw the picture as well, I believe, if I remember correctly.
That was kind of... Oh. That was well timed.
That is also another instance of the, I believe mashing does more, but again, Scarecrows, please, like, let us know if that's the truth. Oh god. I think all the beam supers have some kind of, like, if you mash, you can get more hits. But I could be mistaken.
Well, poor
Could
Felicia
just
just
be
got...
an urban myth.
Oh. That was brutal. So, I want to give you some time to plug your Discord while you're on the show for another Discord.
Sounds good. So I started up a group recently I called the TCG Collective, and I wanted to find fellow people that were card game fiends like myself. I believe the term we use on the server is gremlins.
Yes, card game
Someone
gremlin.
had mentioned being a card game gremlin, and
It was me.
It was you, okay. And it was just such an apt term for how I feel, because I'm like, I told you, I'm playing 7 games or so are on my roster of varying degrees, and I want to find like-minded people like that.
Yeah.
So the TCG Collective is the name of the group. It's still growing, but I think even with, we have not really too many people on there, but it's a lot of us play a lot of these games, and I'm looking to grow it with people that play a little bit of everything. And it's been nice. It's been a nice experience to... I have my friends locally that are that same way, but I'm looking to expand and see how I can grow it. And we'd definitely love to have... I know you're on board, but
Yep.
To the listener, if you're a card game fanatic like myself, more than welcome to have you on board.
Yeah. It's been fun. I've been trying to be the guy that talks about not trading card games because I play a lot of those too.
Yes.
So
same here. I'm in everything pretty much.
So yeah, what were I'm trying to think of the things that I've this Pocket Paragons was one that I'm actually playing in a Gen Con tournament for, which will be fun.
Well, I think, to go back to our conversation, that's another fighting game-esque board game, correct?
It is. In fact, I should probably talk to him. I'm gonna wear my shirt to Gen Con this year. He was a guy that Strive had just come out, I believe, when I met him, and he ran the tournament. They had I just bought the game because it had Rivals of Ether was one of the box sets for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to support this game that's supporting indie video game developers because that seems cool. And so I went and played in the tournament because my buddy and I, whom I need to get on the server, he needs to get over there. He is on FGCB, but he's not in the collective.
Absolutely.
And we just started playing it, and we saw it was the Sunday of Gen Con, it was the last event that was happening for the day. And we were like, yeah, let's sign up. That sounds like fun. And it was you pick one, because their typical system is a KOF style. You pick 3 characters, and then you have to win one game with each character, essentially. And then when you win a game with that character, you can't play that character anymore. So it's kind of reverse King of Fighters. But one of the things that, this tournament was just like, double elimination. You bring a character, and that's the. I guess I'm playing Cable. You bring a character, and you just go at it. And so I brought Maypole from we'll play Colossus. Why not? I brought Maypole from Rivals of Aether, and my friend was really enjoying this character from the set that was the Bard character. And one of the chief mechanics of the game, just as a quick aside, is that you have a rest card, and that's how you get your cards back to your hand. Because there's no decks; it's just like a hand of cards.
Yeah.
And so the rest card is like how you get your cards back, and then if you play an execute card when your opponent plays the rest card, you instantly win the game. Like no matter how much life they have, so it's kind of like the risk reward mind game part of the game, which is like what ends up being like very, very fun about it. And so the character that he played doesn't have a way of executing you. Does that he has? Oh, I guess he would have an SPD, wouldn't he?
Yeah, Colossus has a killer command throw.
Oh, there we go. So he brought this Bard character, and he makes it all the way to grand finals.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, like that's kind of cool. We didn't know one way or the other. We were just kind of like, all right, whatever.
Ooh,
and so the guy who made the game was like, wait, he gets to the grand finals. He's like, wait a minute, who are you playing? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm playing the Bard. He's like, and you made it this far? He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, well, the fact that character doesn't have an execute is like, she's the joke character. And he was like,
That's
what? He's like, yeah. He's like, she's the joke character. Like, she was missing an entire mechanic from the game, like, intentionally.
God.
And he ended up winning the entire tournament with the joke character.
The glorious thing about games like this, like I was saying before, your option of expression is unparalleled, and you can win with the joke character.
Yeah.
Which is all. Hats off your friend. By the way, for being able to do that.
Oh wow, that was. I did not know how that was gonna go.
That was like, my timing is something. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Oh, I think I'm gonna get chipped out here. Oh no, I'm just gonna die because I got hit. But yeah, like that's one of the most ridiculous things about that game.
I love it.
So and it's not a trading card game. You can buy. I mean, it has more of like the Living Legends style. Or not Living Legends. Wow, that's Flesh and Blood. The Living Card Game style, where there's just like box sets, and all the characters are in the box set for that. So you get, and then they have like 1Z, 2Z like demo characters that you can pick up somehow. But yeah, so I say we play one more.
Sounds good to me.
And we'll go from there. I'm gonna play Spider-Man this time. I'm gonna figure it out.
Spider-Man's great. I like him quite a bit.
And because I just have an addiction to playing I just picked two characters that have anti-air.
I think this is the team. I think you. Well, you got the Ken and you got the Felicia. I think something's coming. I think we're cooking a little bit.
It's Gambit.
Perfect. I love it.
But yeah, highly recommend that game if anybody is looking for like a simple, and it's not a long game. You can play like a match in 5 minutes if you really want to, which is great because then it's like much like a fighting game. It's kind of a grindable thing. Like you can just like, and again, it's another game where you can like experiment with a roster and kind of, and yeah, it's great. Highly recommend. I think it's also like $40 for like the whole, for one box set. There's like 4 box sets now.
And how many characters and how many things can you play with the set box set?
I think there are 8 characters per box set, and all of them play together. Like there's
nice.
They actually just did a Kickstarter for one. They made a set that's based off of a comic book series that I don't remember the name of at the top of my head, but it's an Image Comics comic book, and it's like a current like superhero that's not invincible.
The only other one that's coming to mind would be Spawn. I think that's
it's
probably not.
It's not that. There's like some of the cards have like a very Sentai vibe to them, which I
couldn't tell you. I'm a comic book fiend, but in addition to being a card game gremlin, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what that would be.
It's like massive universe or something like that. That feels like it. I don't know.
Could be.
Anyway, so they just came out with that, and that supposedly gets to play with all the other stuff. But before that, they had a Kickstarter that added the Acquisitions Incorporated group from Penny Arcade.
Oh, fun. So they kind of got their toes in like several IPs too.
Yeah. Which I was like, man, like how have they not landed themselves a fighting game IP yet? But you know, whatever. They'll get there. But that was one of the things that I was actually talking to the designer about. Was he was like way into Strive at the time, and so he's like, man, he's like, I've already made characters for all my mains in Strive. I just can't publish them because because I obviously don't have the rights to do that. And now there's a Guilty Gear game.
Exactly.
So speaking of Exceed, I still have not played my copy of the Guilty Gear Strive board game.
I have not played my demo deck I got from Evo last year.
I did play that, and that was pretty fun. So highly recommend you should pull somebody in and do that.
Yes,
but
I'll add it to my list of countless games I'm playing currently. The rabbit hole just gets deeper and deeper.
So deep. So anyway, any final thoughts before we head out here?
Play Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah.
Don't be pressured by the scary things you see online about, you know, you want to learn how to do an infinite, or I was going to jokingly say that when I was playing Iron Man, but
oh yeah.
The game is so out of control, but I feel like even like we're mashing buttons, we're fooling around. It's a great time, and there's so much like heart and weirdness in this game. You know, you have the soundtrack and the stages that totally don't match with the characters, but it's all wrapped up in this beautiful little package, and it's just such a lovely little experience. So I definitely encourage you to go out and play it. And the collection's coming out, so
yeah,
even more of an incentive to try this game out and the other Versus series games. They're great little love letters between the Marvel and Capcom franchises or IPs. So
100%
I encourage you to play that. Yes,
I will be. I will get that. I think I pre-ordered it on Steam, or no, I added it to my wish list. That's right. It wasn't up for pre-order yet. I did do that.
Purchase for sure.
So I'm sure that'll be popular on the server when it comes out. But
absolutely, for 10 minutes, and then people will start learning infinites, and then it'll become a little bit less popular. But you know, we have casual central where I will be for my Marvel games. So.
Yeah. Also, shouts out to the Casual Central and all the work that everybody who participates in that has been putting into it, because
beautiful place.
Damn, it's great. And speaking of small characters, look at this nonsense.
Yes, here is this little imp as we see.
All right, that was
great way to end the. Great way to end.
Yep.
Please kick Surbot's ass, and then we can conclude this.
Apparently, I could just infinitely throw him.
Hit him with a little super or something.
All right.
End him. Oh, or not.
Oh, I didn't get it. Well, hang on. We gotta. There we go.
I'd say that's a beautiful way to cap an episode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
Thanks
Mox.
for having me on again.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I'm glad that we could make this happen. So.
Absolutely.
All right. See you later, everybody.
Bye.